Hi guys, it's Amy, and I'm going live because if I don't go live, I will not post this video because I just don't. I never post videos that I record. That's the editor and me touching myself. Okay, so I wanted to make this video because this is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles coming to America, and I thought, I've been working a lot, and uh, this is just a week to have fun. This is Christmas to me. The Beatles, celebrating the Beatles coming to America is Christmas. So I'm just going to sit here for a while and just spew out some facts. And I was going to show you this coloring book that I found for $4 at Aldi. So let me do, first I'm going to say this. Okay, so 60 years ago, the Beatles came to America, and the British are coming, the British are coming. And it was after a couple months after JFK had been assassinated. So the country was mourning not only a man, but an era of hope, of civil rights and equal rights for women and healthcare and putting a man on the moon and, all this new era of hope and progression and peace. It's the man who avoided the Cuban Missile Crisis. So the country was in mourning. And I also preface this by saying that before the Beatles came to America, a lot of girls, teenage girls, their future looked like uh, meet a nice guy, get married, live in a nice house. Your biggest political social activity would be going to the PTA, and then kids and a dog, and that's pretty much it. You're gonna have the perfect hair, the perfect lipstick, and all is well. Well, when the Beatles show up, they liberated a lot of girls for for good or bad. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, besides the elements of maybe peace and people coming together to dance, and in a time when we had to fight against the Vietnam War, sort of activism, political activism, and speaking out, it really, I feel like the Beatles, one of their biggest things that they did socially was that they awakened a lot of girls into their voice and who they were, who they wanted to be in life. So when they come to America, they had spent a week in France almost as a palate cleanser before all this happened with girls screaming everywhere, because the fans there were primarily, I can't talk today, male based. There's a lot of guys. They even mentioned this in an interview where they talk about how the fans are guys and they didn't scream like the girls. So it was sort of a palate cleanser. But while they were there, they were given the news that "I Want to Hold Your Hand" had hit number one in America. So I think before that, they were terrified they would be a flop. And they were big in the UK, big in Europe, but America could kill all of that. If they flopped in America, that would all be over. So Brian Epstein had done their manager Brian Epstein had done his work. Uh, Ed Sullivan, they were cross-continental, talks of, sorry if I say a lot. I'm trying to fix that. So that's my So there was all this talks, but the seeds had been happening. Little earthquakes had been showing that this was going to happen with the Beatles. George Harrison had gone to America the summer before, 1963, to stay with his sister Louise, who was married to an American, lived in a small Midwestern town. They got a feel of the landscape of what music was doing and what the teenagers wanted. And also Louise would go to and call radio stations to have them play the Beatles, who were already big in Europe. So that had been planted. It was just like little tiny seeds that led up to February 7th, 1964. But I don't think that the Beatles could ever imagine that it would be as big as it was when they arrived that day. Snowy landscape of New York, again, JFK still on everyone's minds. And the Ronettes were on there. It was like, it really was a magical sort of a time, a transitional time, but very magical. And they really did fly in almost on some pixie dust because they were just that right element of completing the magic, the alchemy of the Beatles to explode. And the biggest thing about the Beatles was I think they made everyone happy. They made everyone feel alive. So when they arrived, I don't know if I said it yet, but there's a moment when John Lennon turns to Brian Epstein, the manager, and I feel like he says to him, "You did this. This was your work." Because Brian was a magic maker. He worked for NAMS, Northeastern Music Company, his parents' music store. He had the salesman, he had the charisma, he had gone into acting at one point. So he was a star in his own right. And so they go, and the American press is ready to rip them up and expose them as frauds, jokes, the long Three Stooges mop hair. Oh, a couple questions, and we'll have them under our thumb, and they'll scurry back to England, and all the teenage girls will shut up. And that's not what happened, because the Beatles were smart, funny. They knew how to take one on the chin, but also to serve it. Talented in every way, and cute. They had that charm of the Liverpool charm, which is different than just some posh English person coming over with his lute or whatever. And no, these were smart, funny, street smart guys who knew how to verbally assert themselves. And as for the girls, so the girls are waiting, and there's this collective scream as the Beatles walk off the airplane onto the tarmac. And I feel like it was a cathartic scream of the female, not to get too philosophical, but the female coming alive and awakening. After that, the girls each had their own Beatle, sort of Beatle husband, which now they call, what do they call that? A husbando, or they stan. A lot of girls still do that with the Beatles and groups, and like the, see, I said, again, but I can't remember, the K-pop. There's a lot of that. Okay, so the girls each have their Beatle, and through each Beatle, they found out, well, the Beatle likes this food, and he likes this movie, and this quote, and this book, and they learned through them a new world that was outside of this world that was just going to end in the PTA. And then it kept developing, even through all the, the years of the 60s, to thoughts on how do you feel about the war? And how do you feel about sex before marriage? How do you feel about contraception? How do you feel about going to college? And it gave the girls a voice. It was the beginning journey of the girls having a voice that led to feminism, which really developed in the 70s. So yes, the Beatles did that. And, I want to quote some of the lines of the names of songs, like "She Loves You," "I Want to Hold Your Hand." They didn't come in and say, "He loves you," which would not be very empowering, right? It's not very empowering. They said, "She loves you." She had the power. So, hi, Fatima. How you doing? I'm doing good. I hope that you're having a beautiful day. I'm spewing out my professor type Beatles facts, because this is what I wanted to do this week, is really just talk about the Beatles coming to America and celebrating that. And you still feel the Beatles, because I still listen to, there's a CD or album, or whatever you want to call it, record of Paul McCartney that he did called Chaos and Creation. And it kind of has a Revolver feel to it. And I was listening to it yesterday again and thinking, this part's genius and this part's genius. And, I just love that Paul still represents that musical genius and taste and style and excellence of the Beatles that harkens back to being in the Beatles. I love that. Oh, good. I'm glad you're doing well, Fatima. We're sunny and kind of warm here today. I had a busy morning because my daughter lost her key to her car, and I was trying to do all my psychic, where is it? So I drove her to school because she goes to the local college. And then I came home and I was like, I know it's here. I know. And I found it. I found her key. But it's been one of those Mondays for sure, where everything has just been kind of crazy. So yeah, I wanted to show something. I got this at Aldi. I'll have to take off my blurry things. Let me do that real quick. And again, I decided to go live because if I record, I won't post it. But yeah, somebody told me, go to Aldi and look through the coloring books because they have these $4 Beatles books. I was like, well, okay. Probably not very good. But I am telling you, this is the coolest thing ever. They have the Beatles on the beach, the Beatles in Help. I don't know if I'll ever really color these. They had Beatles for a Hard Day's Night. Is that not the coolest thing? But the coolest thing ever, I think, is that they have the Sergeant Pepper. That would be the back of the album. Or no, that's the inside when you open the inside of the double album. And the cover, the Sergeant Pepper cover. That one I may challenge myself and do. They also had Strawberry Fields from the video. So that is cool. So cool. I was like squeeing. My son was like, "You're getting excited." I know. I get excited about this stuff. And okay, so I've had this for a while. This is the Beatles. It's a DVD. Yes, I still have DVDs. The Beatles coming to the first U.S. visit were the Meisel brothers, two Jewish. Not that that matters, but I love that Brian Epstein was Jewish. So whatever, it doesn't matter. I love that that's in their character. That's why I mention it. New Yorkers who decided to make a documentary of. See, there you go again. Wisdom. Yeah, it is nice. Or if you get those gel pens, because some of these are so tiny that I don't know if you could use paint. But yeah, that'll be fun. It kind of reminds me of those old color by number things they used to have. But okay, so the Meisel brothers had the insight, the brilliant insight to document just them with one or two cameras, which probably was super expensive at the time. The Beatles coming, this group of British mop-haired weirdos come to America. They're gonna film it, and what they captured was the essence that we all love: the zaniness, the behind the scenes, just wit, and also just them being kind, like them being on the train on the way from New York to Washington, and being kind to little kids who wanted to sit with them and talk, and signing autographs for people, or their euphoria at being in Florida with the warm air and the girls on the beach calling up to their bedroom, their hotel room, and their shows, and what it looked like before they went on Ed Sullivan, and what it looked like after. Girls trying to get into their room in the Plaza Hotel. It's a great movie. I used to have one that had all the commercials of the time, and then I lost that. So I used to buy a lot of those when I was young. The color by numbers. Yeah, those are fun. I think they still sell those. If you go to the craft store, they still have them there. But see, I just don't have time to do stuff. I don't have any time to do that. If I'm going to do something, it's going to be where I'm going to be writing or what have you, or doing this. But when you're a kid, you have a million hours, and so those are fun. The problem with me was when I was a little kid, I would color outside the lines and get in big trouble for that. So those were always hard for me, those little color by number kits. So what else? Yeah, I just wanted to come on and celebrate, talk about it. It is like Christmas for me. It is, there I go again. Ugh, I'm going to really have to train myself not to say, What happened was, okay, so the Meisel brothers taped and filmed, documented the Beatles coming to America, and the girls who were sad that they had to leave after 10 days were able to watch it again. And then it also inspired Hard Day's Night by Dick Lester, who really kind of captured that plane, getting in a plane, getting a hotel room, a train, the girls chasing them all the time. And then the Beatles breaking free and breaking the rules. That's kind of what it was. The Beatles break the rules, and in between that, there's a lot of great music. So I love that film. It's a beautiful film. And that's about it. I just wanted to come on and say that really quick. And I'm going to come on and talk about the Beatles all week. Hi, Warrior Girl. How you doing? If you guys have any questions, real quick, because my battery's going to die, and this is supposed to be about the Beatles, but I love you guys. So if you have any questions, I will try to help you out with a card. But or if you have anything you want to say about the Beatles, feel free. My mother worked in Kansas City when the Beatles came to stay, do a concert. Yeah, thank you. I love you too. Well, I'll stay on here a little bit more. But my mother worked at United Airlines, and across the way was the Mulebach Hotel, which is no longer around. And one of the guys that worked there said that the Beatles were in their hotel room, jumping on beds and acting insane. And I think that was a common thing for them. They were always stuck in a car, always, backstage, interviews, car, train, what taxis, what have you. And the only place that they had to let it out was in a hotel room, and they had each other. So the Beatles themselves, I know Paul's never come on and said too much, but I'm sure that there are some stories they could tell about, those hotel rooms. And I'll repeat what I said before, but the Beatles, what they did, I feel like what they did was they awakened something in a lot of the female, teenagers especially, that that life was going to be more than PTA. Life was going to be more than the PTA, and that they actually had a voice, and it carried through the 60s. So as the Beatles changed, the girls changed to the point where they were talking about sex before marriage, and you know protesting the war, things like that. They gave girls a voice. Now the girls did it themselves, but they were opened up. They were awakened by the Beatles, I feel. So, and each girl had her own Beatle boyfriend, and that also kept a lot of girls from maybe getting married to the first guy they met that was a nice guy, because they were devoted to the guy from Liverpool, and that was, maybe it saved them from, I don't know. It's just a thought. There's somebody wrote a book about the Beatles and their female fans, and I haven't read it yet, but there's something to that. I've always felt there's something to that. So, anything else? I mean, I think that's it. Did I show you? My cat's sitting on it now. Hold on. This book that I got. Sorry, Miss Coco. Sorry about that. This Beatles coloring book. It was at Aldi for $4. They have the Strawberry Fields, the Rubber Soul. They have the Beatles with the Maharishi and I Am the Walrus. I don't know if I'll ever color in it, but it'd be fun. And there's Paul. You could color your own Beatle and then hang it on the wall. There's John. Let me put this on here. They were an integral part of the path of awakening. Yeah, I totally agree. That's a good point. That's Warrior Girl. That is a good point about they were against the machine of the church. That, and even going to John singing Imagine, I do feel like one of his biggest roles was to free everyone from organized religion. And, I don't want to say anything bad about, each personal religion, each personal church in your small town can be a beautiful thing. It's a community. But it also, religion has caused war and caused separation and judgment and people feeling ostracized. It's limited people's lives, so they're always quoting Bible verses and they can't awaken to their higher self because they're just stuck in that one religion, in that one town, in that one Bible, and the one teaching, and they're stuck to a pastor. So yeah, the Beatles came along and they really opened people up to what it would be like to almost have your own religion. And then you have Tears for Fears, who played on. I love Tears for Fears because they did sort of pick up the Beatles mentality of, or is that Depeche Mode? Wait, they're both. Depeche Mode, you're your own personal Jesus. Both of them did that. So that's about it. Let's see, anything else? Muhammad Ali. They got to have fun with that. Yeah. It would be cool. I don't know if I'm going to color it, but Yeah, organized crime and organized religion. Can you think of any organization that has the nickname organized? Right. And they make money and it's not taxed. So it's not good. Right. It's kind of why we are where we are today with things, because so many people could not see beyond. They could not see who the. I said this 2 years ago. I was like, the key to getting through this and not being in the cult, whatever the cult is knowing yourself. If you don't know yourself, it allows other people to get in and get into that sort of fear of that Jesus save me type of fear. And anybody, if you're in that state, anybody can be your Jesus. And the problem is we have a political leader who became someone's Jesus. Yeah, the Romans were brutal. The church is supposed to teach about love and peace, Fatima says. That's so true. That's so true. That's where I always ideally want to walk into a church and feel that. And I miss being able to go to church and feel that. Some churches do embody the teaching of Jesus, which would be socialism. Um, so it's always good when you can still feel that. And that involves a lot of actually getting away from the crowd and standing on your own and be willing to be ostracized. So, which is a lot of what John Lennon did. He was very ostracized for speaking out. So yeah, I can't think of anything else to say. I have a lot to say, but I kind of want to save some things and come back on tomorrow. Okay, while meditating, you can feel it. That's true, because you get into what's inside you that's connected to the source. So that's true. When you go in and you listen, you're actually connected to everything. So that's so true, warrior girl. Fatima, that is why I went through so many churches until I found one that I'm comfortable, and I found it in St. Anthony. That's wonderful. I love that. I wish everybody could find the church that's for them, because I do feel that spirituality is a really beautiful thing, and sometimes we need a group that's there for us. That's beautiful. Yeshua was the first rebel. Yeah. Let's see, I don't know if you know my background, but I grew up. My dad was in a religious cult, which is probably why I talk about this stuff so much. I have memory, not fond memories, strong memories of being in this basement of a church, and the guys were in suits, and the women were in their sort of dresses that were very, you know, prim and all that, and we had to be really quiet. And that's how it was in my house. Quiet. I could not move. I could not dance. I could not play. My dad would get out the Bible and every Sunday for hours would shout Bible verses at us and read it, and then ask us if we knew what he had just said. And if you didn't know, you were in trouble. And he spanked us every day. He asked us if we touched his Bible. It was, it was crazy. He gave all his money to the church. It was crazy. And I didn't know it was a cult. I just knew my dad was kind of crazy, and I was scared of him my whole life. And I told someone once, oh yeah, my dad was in this church. And they said, oh my God, that's a cult. And I thought, that explains everything. So I have trouble reading the Bible. So when you say someone like Yeshua, I know Yeshua, but at the same time, I don't read the Bible. So I'm not as versed as I should be. And that's sad, because I know there's beautiful things in the Bible that will help me understand more about the universe. The acronym Bible stands for Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth. Oh, interesting. And I mean basic. Yeah, basic. Well, what's like the first thing that you read when you open the Bible? It says something about how women are evil and we're all going to hell. And that's not okay with me. That, really doesn't sit well with me. So I tend not to read that. Hey, Jamie. It's Jamie. I think using love as a starting point, the Beatles commercialized human emotions via music. Both the music and the message is just as important. They made audiences think than communicate. That's true. And it made people dance with each other. And that's also a really important point of that it didn't matter if somebody was a certain race or gender. The music made everybody come together and dance. And that's a beautiful thing. And that is a really big part of why the Beatles were beloved to this day because of that. And they even would make sure that their audiences weren't segregated. And they also didn't charge too much because they knew that their fans were teenage girls who were probably using babysitting money to get in. Okay, so Warrior Girl says, so good point, Jamie. That's an excellent point. Warrior Girl says, Yeshua ben Joseph, aka Yeshua the Christed One, aka Jesus the Christed One, aka Jesus Christ. Oh, well, yeah, alchemy. Jesus was a healer. He had, one time I had Jesus came to me, and I think of Jesus as an ascended master mostly. And in the same sort of line as Buddha and and all that. So, and he said that he was a healer and that he said I was a healer, but I haven't really gotten into that very much. But the hands, he said it was in the hands. So that we're all healers. If you can use your hands to heal others, and also that comes from the heart, it's all connected, but that you're doing his work because he basically was a healer. It was in his hands. Yeah. But I can't help like this part that you wrote on here, this begat, aka Jesus the Christed One, and Jesus Christ. I think of the life of Brian, and to me, that's just a really fun and also academic way to look into the Bible because it explains a lot of the Bible through this guy, this side character called Brian, who's mistaken for Christ and goes through all these troubles. And the Romans, and it shows the Romans and how brutal they were. He is, and ascended masters can be in multiple places at the same time, just like the angels. That's true. I've had many experiences with Jesus, and basically the energy of him every time has been of peace and complete and total acceptance and love. There was no judgment. A woman had an abortion. I've never had an abortion, but there was a point when I was 18 and my viewpoint was you shouldn't have abortion because it's murder, blah, blah. And I remember I had to write a paper for composition. And I remember reading it back to myself before I turned it in and being like, this is, whoa, I hate what I wrote. I hate that I feel that way. And I instantly changed. And the whole thing about Jesus is that, and Buddha, and other ascended masters, Moses, were that it's love and non-judgment. And through that is the portal to heaven. Heaven is love. And I know a lot of times we want to, this person did this person did that. Like, with 45, I don't hate 45. I actually feel bad for him in so many ways because he's making so many mistakes on a soul level. I don't like what he does at all. I want, him to be out of our consciousness, out of, his power, to be out of our fear zone, whatever. But I don't hate him. I don't hate him. Okay, so Jesus, he saved my life in 2015. His body looks like ours at first glance, but is made of light, golden light. And you know what? That's so true. And when they show the Shroud of Turin, my theory, my intuition is that it was from his light that was still connected to his body, even though he was dead for those, hours or day or whatever it was. That was not just his blood and body fluids. It was light. And as I've had John, who is not Christ, but John Lennon manifest on carpet, like perfect images of himself, the ground outside. And I was like, how'd you do that? And he showed the energy of light. And I thought, oh, that's how Jesus did it with the Shroud of Turin. That's how he did it. So they can test everything, but the thing is, it was light. It was the miracle of light that did it, which is love. So, Warrior Girl, that's beautiful. I know you've seen Forrest Gump, where the moment where Lieutenant Dan, right? Lieutenant Dan has his Jesus moment where he finally lets go of his anger that he was not killed in the Vietnam War. He wanted to go as a hero like his ancestors, but he was saved, without a limb, without his limbs. So, an injured man. And he was mad. He was mad at God. But then he had that moment where he accepted because his life was beautiful. And in that dependable moment of the sunset, like I've had that too. I was driving through country roads with the sun setting and just felt this peace. And I felt that Jesus was in the car with me. And I've never forgotten that. Just a moment of peace. So, oh gosh. Okay. So Jamie says, shocking news coming through about King Charles having terminal prostate cancer. The nation is mourning already. Oh, and then you have Princess Kate with her issues, and then Fergie has skin cancer. It's just a really, really bad time for them. I'm sorry to hear that. As an intuitive, I want to say that I and a lot of people have picked up that Charles would not be king for very long. I thought it would be that he would step down, but sadly, this could. I wish him the best. I really do. I hope that he'll be okay. But it sounds bad. That's sad. That's. I would guess that Prince Philip would take over at that point. I always felt like Princess Charlotte, is that her name? That she's probably going to be queen after a while and have a long reign as queen. So, well, that's really sad to hear. That's talking about the Beatles and then that's really sad. So, yeah, sorry to hear that. Well, I'll probably wrap it up here soon, and we wish the king and the royal family the best. I know that it's not perfect in that situation, but we certainly wish everyone the best. And anyway, if you live near an Aldi, this is $4. Now, does anybody have any questions, or anybody have any other Beatle memories or anything? No, it's okay. I was almost done, Jamie. Yeah, do you have any Beatle things you want to talk about for that? This is about the Beatles coming to America. I wanted to talk about the 60th anniversary, which would be Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. So I'm happy to hear. We'll talk about that if you want to. How does it make you feel when you watch the old videos of them coming to America? Have a blessed day, everyone. Nice to see you today. You too, Warrior Girl. Thank you for coming in and thanks for your comments. It's fun. You always add a lot, so I love that. And yeah. Well, I'm still here. Roger. Okay, Roger. Jamie. What did I think about Paul McCartney, Freddie Mercury duet I sent you? I liked it. I like it. It's kind of an odd duo if you think about it, but it was really pretty. It kind of reminded me of, that era where Paul wrote Waterfalls, which is Paul has these couple different sides to him of music styles, and it reminds me of that. Wanderlust, that's a great song. So it kind of reminded me of that, and it's really great to have them together. Freddie Mercury. They played Live Aid together. They were there. I don't know if they played together, but they were there at the concert. So that's cool. I love it. I think it's great. Oh, that's great. Warrior Girl, thank you. Having Debbie Downer day, but you three have cheered me up. Yes, I love that. That's great. It's hard on a Monday too. Do you know what? Yesterday I felt that. It was really, I'd worked too much and I was really in a crappy state. So I'm glad that we cheered you up. I'll try to do this more often. I'm going to try to come on this week and do this pretty much every day and show some of my Beatles stuff that I have, because I have a lot. And I even have my hat, you know. I just, it's funny how this, I like, there's an era for each Beatle, and the Beatles, there's different eras. There's this era, the early era, or there's the Hamburg and the Cavern, and there's the Hard Day's Night era. And this is like, right now we're doing all this stuff. And then they went into the Help era and the Rubber Soul, and it got to be more trippy and drugs and things like that. And Sergeant Pepper. I love every era. In fact, I watch the Get Back. I used to have Disney Plus. I actually canceled, so now I don't have it anymore. But they had the Get Back show, which was the unreleased footage from them recording and doing the concert for the rooftop. That's an era that I love, and I'm so happy to watch that show. I love it. It calms me down when I sit and watch it. So anyway, yes, he wrote it with Freddie in mind, and if you listen to the solo single, Mac has sung it in the style of Freddie, same key. Oh, okay. I guess I thought that was just Paul doing his own thing. I didn't know it was a sort of like a loving tribute. Well, I was saying that. Do you know that that sound reminds me of Paul? One of my favorite albums of Paul's is Flowers in the Dirt. And it's sort of like people don't talk about that album a lot because it was that 80, it has some of that 80s sound. So a lot of people just brushed off as not Paul's best work. I actually think Back to the Egg was the worst album. I hate that album. Seriously, it's when I hear it, I cringe. I don't like any song on Back to the Egg. But Flowers in the Dirt is one of those lost Paul McCartney masterpieces, in my opinion. There's so many good songs like My Brave Face, which I felt like was Paul writing about John when John was a house husband. If you listen to it, you'll understand what I mean. So go listen to My Brave Face by Paul McCartney. And I think it's a tribute to John Lennon. I really do. Yeah, Back to the Egg is horrible. It is. It's awful. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what, but I love it. And okay, let's talk about this. It's weird. The movie Give My Regards to Broad Street. I instantly loved, just like Magical Mystery Tour, I instantly loved that movie. And I used to listen to that tape, CD, whatever, a lot. I love, like, Ballroom Dancing is one of my favorite songs. I think that song rocks. I think it's creative. And then there's, like, he does that falsetto song, No More Lonely Nights. That's such a great song. People make fun of that movie and that album, but I love it. I love it. I love the whole era of Paul McCartney. Okay, Warrior Girl. There was a band out of Pennsylvania called Dr. Dog. I've heard of them. And when my son played their songs, I thought they were lost songs of the Beatles and believe a CPL of them were reincarnated. Yeah, it could be. It could be. There could be that they're, what do I always say, soul seeds. Jerry, there we go, stop saying Amy. Jerry Rafferty has gained in popularity all of a sudden. And the first time I heard Right Down the Line, I was like, oh, John Lennon wrote that through Jerry Rafferty. So then I was like, Google, did Jerry Rafferty like John Lennon? Yes, he was a big fan of John Lennon and the Beatles. I really feel like their, whatever that magic dust, soul seeds, whatever, it went out to different people. And the band Dr. Dog, I wouldn't be surprised. And Jerry Rafferty and others, I wouldn't be surprised at all. They not only emulate, I think they channel and bring back to life. So yeah, could be. And the Ruddles are like almost the Beatles, almost as good as a joke, because the Beatles joke too. Like they made a joke about everything too. So I love the Ruddles. Their bloodline, and they bloodline, yeah. And hey, they did have their fun with the girls back then. I'm sure they did. Have you ever seen the interview where it's John on what's the Late Show? That one guy, Tom Schneider, and he asked John about groupies, and John's like, "Yeah, we had them," and he said that that's pretty much why you got in a band, was they called them slags, which is terrible, but I've heard worse. Um, Dick Cavett asked Janis Joplin in an interview about groupies, and she's like, "Yeah, I have groupies." So I like the fact that they just would freely admit that that was one reason why they were in the music business. So true. Yeah, channeling, yes. Now we have Oasis, who I feel like they channel, but it's just he loves John Lennon. Okay, I'm talking about it's okay. There's Liam and Noel. It's Liam. Liam Gallagher loves John Lennon so much, almost to a fault, where he's forgotten who he is. And I feel like it's not channeling half as much as it is. He's just desperate to emulate John. So I love them though. I do love Oasis. What's the other one? I just thought of it and I forgot. Oh, Radiohead, Tom York. He channeled John Lennon quite a few times. You can always tell. Like, I don't know if it's intuitive or not, but I can always pick up on it. And I love it. I think that's great. It's beautiful. And there's female singers too who have done it, many, many of them. Susanna Hoffs of the Bangles. She obviously loves John Lennon. I think she's channeled him quite a bit. So it's a lot. It's great. All right, you guys. Well, I am about done. Um, I wish I had. There was a couple Saturdays ago after work where something made me come in here and look at some old records that I have because records were dying and I love records. Like as a child, that's what I did. I would play records and sit and stare at the records spinning around. So when I found out they were all dying and being phased out by CDs and all that and digital downloads, I was like, I'm going to get me all the records that are, because I like that authentic. So I found I found Paul McCartney Band on the Run live. So it was Wings Across America, and it was a double album, and it had a poster. And I think I'll go. Well, no, I don't know where it is. I'll do it tomorrow because I don't know where it is right now. So, have you heard about Paul's plans to rewrite Broad Street, Amy? No, but you know what? They should turn it into a stage show because there's a stage show about everything. So a re-edit. Oh, no, but they no, that'll be great. I think he should. I think the new gen fans that love the Beatles right now would really love that. Um, right now, what they just released, I saw was it was the Band on the Run album they just released with the photos of Paul, Linda, and Denny Lane in the black and white, and Linda's got like the braid in her hair, so she was so earthy like that. I love Linda so much. In fact, somebody wrote something on Instagram and had a picture, or it was a video of Linda singing, harmonizing with Paul. And she didn't have a bra on. She didn't have any makeup on. She was just harmonizing with him. And I said, oh my God, she was just an earth angel. I swear to God, she was an earth angel. And that comment got so many likes because I think a lot of people agree. And I think Paul would agree that she was an earth angel. Just this beautiful human being who he happened to fall in love with and fell in love with while he was still in a relationship, unfortunately. But then, whatever. Sad. I think he and Jane Asher were on the way out at that point. So that's sad because Jane Asher was so beautiful too. If you think about it, she kind of looked and had the same energy as Linda. It's just she wasn't going to be there in the long run. She wasn't going to be the person who was going to sing duets with him and learn keyboard and go on tours. And Linda was all in like that. I swear, Linda and Paul McCartney were twin souls. They really had the same. Uh, they loved being together. They never got sick of each other. Paul has the master tapes from Miramax. Paul feels Harvey Weinstein, severely butchered the 1984 version to the point it didn't make sense. A re-edit will restore a lot of the narrative. Yeah. What movie did I see? It might have been James Bond. And I thought, oh, that's where Paul got that idea for some of the early scenes of Give My Regards to Broad Street. But yeah, I'd be interested in seeing a new edit. Why not? I think it'd be fun. That's the one. Isn't that where? Okay, so Ringo and Barbara Bach. Now he had done Caveman, so I know they already met. but they're together and they act like they don't know each other. But by the end of the movie, they know each other. So yeah. Oh, and it has the silly love songs in there. They did every thing of that. It's kind of trippy. They did sort of a trippy, robotic Michael Jackson ish thing with silly love songs. Linda in person was absolutely stunning. I bet she really was naturally beautiful. Yeah, I agree. I agree. She's really beautiful. I love when I see pictures of her. I just always think she's extremely beautiful. And I think that Yoko was is extremely beautiful too. There's some things she did that I don't completely agree with, but I admire her too and feel she's very beautiful. But Linda had that sort of golden, earthy beauty that's really rare in a lot of people. And the fact that she was kind to animals and yeah, I love that. She loved horses. There's those girls. I knew a girl in junior high. She loved horses and she would draw horses all the time and that's all she talked about. And I think there's some girls that are just so it's cute how they're like that. Again, very earthy and organic and just a beautiful natural person. That's all I can think to say. I can't think of anything else. But I will look out for the new Give My Regards to Broad Street because I really do like that film. In fact, during the pandemic when we were stuck, the kids and I, we couldn't go anywhere. I was like, let me pull out my old it was a video cassette of Give My Regards to Broad Street. And that helped me because when you can't go anywhere, you just feel so restless and that filled some time. Anyway, anything else before I go? My computer's gonna die soon. So bye. Thanks for watching. I'll come back tomorrow. Okay. And if I could figure out, I'm gonna do this. No, Jamie, you're good. Hello and love you too. I need to figure out how to do sort of posting with a video in the picture so I can do commentary on them. You too, Warrior Girl. Thank you. You, you too. Stay safe. Peace and blessings today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Love you.